Hey YouTube, we're back with part 2 of the handheld radio communications section. Basically what I want to do is I want to talk about the advantages of using the 2-meter radio system as opposed to the family radio systems or the CB radio systems or even the XRS radio systems. There are also other systems out there that require some licensing that, in my opinion, I don't feel are really worth your time or money. And that's the MURS and the GMRS. I know they've recently opened one of them up. I think it is the GMRS, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Basically, what I want to talk to you today about, though, is the 2-meter ham band handheld radios. And these operate on UHF and VHF, which are just essentially a frequency range. I'm not going to get into all the math and all the science behind the VHF versus UHF. All you really need to know is the advantage of these radios are that they can do everything that the other radios that I just showed you did, and then some. And this is the then some. So right now, if I take 2 FRS radios, or even these radios, and I do what's called simplex communications, what happens is, let's use this side here. Okay, I have my radio, and I start to transmit. And I'm transmitting to another radio. And they're talking back and forth. The further I get away from each other, the less I'm going to have the ability to be able to communicate, because they only have a certain range. What happens is a lot of trees or foliage or let's say mountains can get in the way, and now suddenly I'm not able to get good signal. However, the advantage of these duplex radios is they have the advantage of receiving and transmitting on different frequencies. So what happens is if I have this mountain and my friend is on this side of the mountain. He's got his little radio there, and I'm on this side of the mountain. I've got my radio here. Now, these are line of sight radios. This is how this radio system works. So they don't have to physically see each other, but the frequency can move over things, but not very well. So I may be able to talk to him, but chances are I'm going to have a lot of garbled reception. Okay, it's not going to go well. So because of the wattage that these are putting out and because of the line of sight issue, I'm not able to communicate with my friend. However, with the fact that this radio can transmit on one frequency and receive on another, and this radio can do the same thing, transmit on one frequency and receive on another, you can put that setting into these radios, and what happens is back here on this mountain ridge back here, there is what's called a repeater. And this is a terrible representation of what a repeater looks like, but this is a nice little tower and a repeater antenna on the tower. So this repeater receives on frequency 1 and transmits on frequency 2. As long as my radio can see the repeater and his radio can see the repeater, it doesn't matter that this mountain is between us, because these repeaters are put up on extremely high towers, generally 100 feet if not more on some of these towers. And as long as, because of the height that these repeaters have, all my radio has to do is transmit to that repeater, and that repeater will then do exactly what it says, repeat the signal out on a different frequency, so that he is receiving and hearing what I have to say. And as he transmits, it'll do the exact same thing, but backwards. So if that makes any sense, in an emergency, I can have the capabilities of these other radios that I showed earlier, but I can get a lot further range. So let's say I decide I want to go another 25 miles away. Well, as long as these repeaters, which this often is the case, have the ability to continue talking, which these are networked repeaters, I can still talk to my buddy 25 miles away and I might be going through 2 repeaters. So again, it's based on your area and what repeaters you have. And another advantage of these radios, which I may get into sometime down the road once I get the equipment to do it, is you can create your own repeater. All right. So I'm not trying to get into all the fancy, crazy radio science that goes behind this. I'm just trying to give a simple explanation of why I truly believe these radios and you getting your amateur radio license is more important and more advantageous to you than just falling back on the simple, this is what I can get from Walmart or a yard sale method. However, as you can see, I have all of these types of radios. But what I realized and understood is that there is a huge limitation with these radios right here. And I wanted to make sure that I'm not limited by my communications, that now I have the ability to communicate even better. And you'd be surprised if you decide you want to get your amateur license and you say, hey, that's for me, I want to do that. I think that would be great to be able to communicate in an emergency with not only my friends and family, but maybe emergency services or other people that may be able to help in that situation. You're going to find that there are a lot more things than just repeaters that you can do with these radio systems. There are actually satellites in space right now that have receivers and will repeat on the 2-meter band. It requires a different type of radio or antenna, but you can even use these radios to talk on a satellite. You can talk to the International Space Station with these radios if you have the correct antenna. And we're talking, you're not putting out any more watts than what these can put out. Again, there's a lot to learn when it comes to radios. There's a lot of neat things that you as a citizen, you as a patriot, you as a whatever it is you're wanting it for as a homesteader. These are all great things for you to have, because a lot of homesteaders live out in the country. We live in rural America. We live in the Appalachian Mountains, which I don't have very good cell service where I live. So if the phone lines go down, I don't really have communications if the cell towers aren't working right or if I'm not in the right spot. However, I will tell you that there are 3 repeaters in my county that I can easily hit with no problem on the 2-meter band. And there are even more repeaters I could use in an emergency if I needed to use those repeaters. And then this isn't even taking into account HF radios and other types of radios that are something that I'll get into as we go. But that right now I want to focus on handheld radios and how big of an advantage that you spending $15, a little bit of study time, and $20 for a radio or $30 for a radio can really get you. So just take that into consideration. Again, if you have any questions, have any concerns, anything that may be, and if you know the answer to the MURS, GMRS question, because I mentioned earlier, I can't remember which one you have to have a license for. If you know that, go ahead and stick that down in the bottom there in the comments section. But yeah, definitely. If you have any questions, concerns, maybe you're running some of these rigs, or you might have your ham radio license, let me know. I'd love to definitely see if we can't maybe communicate with these. But again, these are all great ideas that you can have for emergency communications. None of these are wrong. I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying the only way that you can have emergency communications in a survival situation or a homestead situation or a self-sufficiency situation is to be on the ham networks. That's not the case. I'm just showing the advantages of how much more you can get out of these for literally the same price that you would pay for some of these. But again, I have all of these systems at my disposal for a reason, because I want to be able to have more than just one way of communicating. I want to be able to get out and be able to know what's going on in my community, know what's going on in the world, and these are all ways that I can do it. Another thing real quick before I get off here, the advantage of these are you can actually listen to FM radio on these radios. It's pre-programmed in there. All you have to do is hit the FM button, and now you're hearing FM radio. So that's kind of cool. But if anybody wants a review of any of these radios, specifically about the radio, going through the process of using it, again, comment down in the comments section, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and God bless.